Amongst the people who don't kind of live and breathe this sort of personal development stuff, there is a false assumption that, yeah, for example, like the 10,000 hour rule, which is supposed to be for kind of achieving mastery, like world class mastery in anything, where people would kind of dismiss it, be like, oh, I don't have the raw talent to be like world class at this thing, therefore I'm not going to try. But you can still be kind of top 1% in basically anything, regardless of what the raw talent is.
I'm not a huge fan of the framing of any of these things, to be honest.
Yeah, it's got a very kind of competitive kind of framing.
Yeah, I often hear people expressing some kind of sentiment of like, you know, this thing is only worth doing or worth trying at if I can get really, really good at it relative to other people. And I don't want to do things that that I won't be really, really good at relative to other people, kind of thing. And yeah, this whole competition thing, man, I really don't know where I stand on competition. I think it's like,
What do you mean you don't know where you stand on this competition thing?
yeah, I think competition is like 90% problematic, but there is some kind of it that is maybe okay. Yeah, I'm really not a fan of competition in general. I think it's always a bit iffy if someone describes themselves as very competitive. I struggle to think of a wholesome way to be competitive. Yeah, I just think like a mindset of competition is very, very, very rarely coming from a good place. It's coming from a place of like, just like viewing your comrades as adversaries of like, oh, I need to be better than these people or whatever. Or it could be coming from a place of like, I want social validation by external attributes about myself, which I think will make people like me more. Or it's coming from a place of, I will be okay if, like, I really struggle to imagine competitiveness coming from a good place. Now, I think the exception is, I think in the realm of games, like sports, for example, when the setup is deliberately a competition and everyone is opting in to compete with one another for sport, and I'm using sport in pretty broad terms, then I can maybe get on board with it, and I think that can be done in a way, and that can be approached in a way that is good. But outside the very narrow confines of literal competitive events, I think, yeah, just approaching things from a lens of competition and sort of being competitive about things, I struggle to see it coming from a good place.
Do you struggle to see it coming from a good place if Jeff Bezos is like, I want Amazon to be the biggest retailer in the world?
I think it's a different kind. It's qualitatively different from, I want to come top of my year in my exams, or I want to be better than the Joneses at I don't know what do people compete on these days. I want to be better at so and so on some musical instrument, or like I want to.
What if it's I want to be better than Joneses because I want to land that promotion to become partner, and there's only one of them going, therefore I need to be better than these other 5 candidates that are applying for the same thing?
Yeah, sure, but that is a sort of specifically constructed competition that you are in for this one job or whatever, right? Like it's.
I mean, I
That's
struggle. Like,
it's an
what sort of
objective
examples are you
reality.
thinking of where there's not a specially constructed? I mean, I want to rank first in the year group because I want the gold medal prize, and it'll be good for my CV, and it'll be fun little challenge list. Let's give it a go.
Yeah, I mean, look, it comes down to like, why do you want the gold medal prize? And again, I think in that question, I struggle to imagine it coming from a good place most of the time. Huh?
Yes, sure. So you're saying if you want a certain accolade, chances are it comes from a place of insecurity where you feel like you're not enough without the accolade.
I think there's a good chance of that. There's a good chance it comes from a sort of, yeah, like a zero-sum mindset. One person can only succeed at the cost of someone else, like not succeeding or whatever, right? Like,
I mean, I think so. Your broad point is, in general, competition equals bad because I struggle to see it coming from a good place.
a competitive mindset or a mindset of competition is bad most of the time.
Okay.
outside the confines of like a
An actual
literal
competition.
competition.
Yeah.
You know?
No.
And look, it's tricky because I do think, you know, pursuing excellence, you know, pursuing excellence in something, I think is good. It's good. It's to be encouraged, but it shouldn't come from a place of I want to pursue excellence in this thing so that I can beat other people in this thing, so that other people will like me or think I'm a worthy human being or whatever, right? Or
Okay, sure.
I can feel like you know, I think there is a healthy way to pursue excellence, but I think
But that
pursuing excellence from a mindset of competition, I don't know if that it ain't it. This ain't it, chief.
I think your broader beef is with the idea of doing anything or having any sort of mindset
Full stop.
where
That's it.
yeah, just any kind of mindset is bad. um, any kind of mindset where there is a level of wanting our internal self-esteem to come from an external factor. So you could say the same thing about what's the real reason why you want to buy an Apple Watch. If the real reason is because you want to signal your identity to yourself and others, that's probably a bit problematic. Equally, what's the real reason for taking part in this competition? Is it because you want to signal your status to others in some way by winning? That's probably problematic. I think your beef isn't with the competition, it's with any realm in which the reason for doing the thing is because you're coming from a place of I will be okay if I get this
Yeah,
particular accolade.
yeah, correct. And I think probably like 60% of competitive mindsets stem from that.
Okay, that's a hugely arbitrary kind of.
Fine, 50 to 70.
Okay,
What?
fine,
What?
whatever. Giving a range. Yeah, fine. I don't like to
I don't like to plant a
opine
flag in
about
the
other
ground.
people's mindsets.
Sorry, what?
I don't like to opine about other people's mindsets
Why?
around certain things,
Why?
unless it's a field in which I have enough data points to have a reasonable read on. Okay, I've spoken to like 30 people about this thing, and like 28 of them feel this way about competition. I just don't have that data around the idea of competition, and
I don't
certainly
think
when I
that.
think
I don't think this is a problem of data. All right, just provide me a theory, or just like give me one possible, yeah, some possible explanations for.
okay,
A,
winning a competition, even if it's not explicitly a competition, the beating of other people in insert domain here leads to better life outcomes for myself. I think that makes up a huge chunk of the things. Like for example,
okay, dude, like, but okay, better life outcomes for myself could mean a million things. Like, you know, 80%, sorry, 70 to 90% of better outcomes for myself are, you know, stem from my peers will think better of me, people will value me more highly, you know, all this kind of stuff. Like, better outcomes for myself is kind of begging the question. I'm trying to get
okay,
at, like,
fine.
you know, what is the
Okay,
better outcome for myself?
will lead to a will be more likely to lead to an increase in my salary. The example I'm thinking of in my head is this thing about my goal of wanting to hit the New York Times list with this book that I'm writing, which
Okay.
isn't which is not from a place of I will be okay if I hit this goal, and without hitting this I feel like inferior in my self-worth. It's literally that hitting this list will actually be interesting for my life, because of the opportunities that come that are associated with that. And in a way, that is an arbitrary competition where you have to kind of be in the top 10 non-fiction hardback books sold that week. But I'm pretty sure the place it's coming from is not a place of competition. Like, I'm not even thinking about the other competitors in the field. What I'm thinking about
So
is
then why do you view this, why are you viewing this as an example of me harking against competition if you don't
because
actually view it as competition?
because it is a competition.
Sorry?
Because it is a competition. I want to hit the list is an implicit like there. It's a competition.
Look, it's hard for me. I think it's a stretch for me to specifically say that someone else's competitive mindset is coming from a bad place. The point I'm making is the wider structural issue here. And so I'm not gonna say that like, oh, my mate Bob, right, he's got a competitive mindset coming from a bad place.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say anything like that, but I certainly know people who strongly dislike losing at anything. You know, probably doesn't come from a good place.
I mean, I dislike losing when I'm playing an arena in World of Warcraft. I think that comes from a particularly bad place.
Sorry?
I dislike losing when I'm in a 2v2 arena match.
Yeah, look, there's different ways of disliking things, sure. but again, I think that's qualitatively different. People's motivations for things are often in order to beat other people at those things.
Yeah, I think when I was younger in school, like the desire to rank first in the year every year was definitely a competitive thing, where there was definitely a
Where did that come from? Why did you care about that?
I think if I were to psychoanalyze my younger self, it was a case of my whole identity being tied up in that, and therefore me feeling I will be okay if I
Yeah,
retain my position.
yeah, I deserve my place on this planet if I can remain
Yes, if I
competitive.
can continue my yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, probably not a particularly good place to.
yeah, yeah. It's that kind of stuff that I'm talking about.
Hmm.
And yeah, look at university. There were plenty of people who definitely had this sort of competing against other people sort of mindset of like, I mean, very concretely, there are things like, oh, I'm not going to share my notes with people doing
Yeah,
the same subjects as me.
sure.
Um, I really can't imagine that coming from a good place.
Hmm.
And yeah, the point I was making was that, and actually, yeah, I guess partly why I feel semi-strongly about this is that competitiveness is often presented as like a positive thing. It's like, you know, people take pride in being competitive. You know,
Yeah.
we were talking about like Tinder tropes or you know dating app
Hmm.
tropes. One dating app tropes. I mean, one of the prompts is like I'm overly competitive about X. You know,
Hmm.
um, and one like really common thing that I've seen people write in their profiles is I'm overly competitive about everything. Yeah, it's like it's something people take a little bit of pride in it. It's seen as like kind of a good thing to be competitive, and that's what I'm trying to push back against.
Yeah. Fair. I can get on board with that.
And like, look, it certainly leads to good outcomes. Like you know if you hear the way a lot of very quote unquote successful people talk about things, there's definitely a large element of having a chip on your shoulder early on in life and feeling like you have something to prove, and literally I can be okay if kind of thing. I think that's partly why the competitiveness thing is kind of seen as a good thing because yes, like it does lead to externally better outcomes. Like if you know if you are a very competitive person, you will probably try harder at certain things. You will probably you're potentially more likely to succeed in whatever thing you're trying to do because you care about beating the other people. And so I think that's why it's seen as kind of a positive thing because a lot of the successful people are very competitive and it's probably contributed to their success.
Hmm.
But my point is, I doubt it comes from a good place, and I'm sure there is a wholesome way to to get that motivation
Yeah.
and pursue excellence.
Fair play. I can get on board with that.
Yeah, yeah, that's my spiel about competition.